No, we've got a lot to cover today, and thank you, Stephanie, for those introductions, and thanks everyone for joining us here as we go through how Lectora can help you build accessible training, and this all kind of started with, and we'll get to kind of starting with the end in mind. A few months back, our VP of Customer Success, Cheryl Coggins, had asked us to look into it was an older, I don't know, template or tutorial was the right word, Alan, that we
Yeah.
came to, but an old one that said, like, there's been a lot of updates to Lectora and making it a more accessible tool to help you make a more accessible training. And we should update this tutorial and put it out there. So with that, Alan's taken it upon himself to work with uh, key stakeholders, the Lectora Accessibility User Group, which I think we've got a few of those people on today. Cheryl, as well as I mentioned, and as well as a bunch of other teams where accessibility is not just their job, but it's a passion, and we truly believe in making training more accessible for everyone to enjoy. And so with that, Alan's kind of taken this tutorial and just made it into this, showcase project that we're excited to share with you guys here on this webinar. But then at the end too, when we're sending out our recordings, we'll also send you this Lectora file as well. So you can go through it, experiment with it, but then also you've always got this thing with you to help you make accessible training. So with that, I won't steal any more of Alan's thunder. Alan, take it away, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. I'm really excited about since we're going to be showcasing today. When it comes to accessibility, sometimes, you feel like you don't know enough, right? So when I first started working, at ELB Learning, I was like, okay, I don't know much about accessibility. But now, when we started working on this big accessibility project, I stopped being scared of it. Okay, you shouldn't be scared of it. And I know there are some folks here in this meeting that already know accessibility, and some people also here that doesn't know much about it. So the message I want to send out is just don't be scared. This tool will be really helpful for you if you are a newcomer for Lectora, and also a newcomer in accessibility. This would be like the perfect tool to start working on your accessibility projects. And with that said, let me launch the project we have worked on. And this will cover all the accessibility features in Lectora, right? This will be from the Lectora point of view, from Lectora user point of view. Okay, first of all, this course is will be helpful for Lectora and Lectora Desktop, so you can work really well on both. And if you don't know about guidelines, sorry, and the requirements to make a course accessibility enough, you should know that there is a section called Section 508, where you can know all of the rules and also the WCAG guidelines you can check on when you have new questions. This course will not cover all, but this course will just cover the Lectora aspects of it. But if you want, you can, after as Troy mentioned, this template of this project will be available for you, so you can go and review all the links if you don't have enough time to go over all the information. Okay, this course is also heavily oriented for screen readers. So in case you are trying out JAWS or NVIDIA or Zoom Text, this will be perfect for you because it will give you like the clues, right? All the points and where to how to start creating your own accessibility courses. And we have to make differentiate, what's the difference between a screen reader and a text-to-speech. So the screen reader will be the tool that we're going to be using for accessibility purposes when it comes to any courses that it's developed for accessibility or us as an accessibility courses. Whereas a text-to-speech is just a tool that just reads text out loud, right? So screen readers are complex tools to help you develop or help you take courses in accessible ways, right? So this is basically the difference. If you have a text-to-speech tool in your phone, on your iPad or your computer, it will just read, text out loud, but it's not gonna have all the all the tools you need to have a full accessible experience. So this is what we are going to discuss today, how to create an accessible course from a Lectora perspective. Let's start with the reading orders. Now that we know that the screen readers will do the work for us, we need to design or to develop our Lectora courses with this purpose, right? Why? Because the screen reader will first identify inherited top level project level objects. Then it will identify chapters, and then it will identify page objects. So we have this structure, right, from top to bottom. So if you place your elements in the right order, the screen reader experience will be, will be better. Instead of having everything, if you don't have your elements placed as we are, suggesting here, the screen reader experience will be awful. So if we follow these tips, first inherited object, which is the inherited objects can be all the navigation items, and then we go chapters, and then below chapter pages, and also every element that you put in your pages are in the right order. The screen reader will read this information correctly. So this is what is really important, to have the right setting for the screen for your screen reader. I will skip some slides. You have time to go over the slides with your own pace. So I will go with the most important aspect of this. Let's talk about foundation. What are the first things we need to enable? Okay, the first thing we need to do is to enable accessibility settings in Lectora. Sometimes this is overlooked. I mean, if you're not a accessibility-oriented developer, you can ignore this, or you can skip it, or maybe you don't know. But this is really important. Like, I'd like for newcomers to start thinking this way, like, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm not developing something for accessible purposes, but I strongly suggest that you do, right? Even though we don't have enough interactions in it, or even if our interactions are really complex, we should at least enable accessibility settings for all the people who need these settings enabled. And how we're going to enable this is pretty easy. Just go to the design tab, click on project options, and here you will have to just check mark this on or enable this, and then you have to add a accessibility, a focus color. This is really important for when you are tabbing or when you're using a screen reader. This will be the color of the indicator of the graphic that it's going to follow. Will follow your, when you're using your keyboard or your tabbing. So this is basically this will also enable responsive project in case you're using, mobile, and this will also set the main language of your course. We'll see in the course later that we can change some text. We can change the language of this text. For example, you're using a text in Spanish, block text in Spanish. You can set this configuration to read the instruction, the text block, in Spanish, but just that specific text box. So yeah, so this is pretty easy. Design and project options, and that's how you enable this feature. I wanted to show you, in tool how this works and why it matters. Okay, skip to content link. This is one of the main features. I mean, this is one of the things that we really need to set this up at the beginning, right after we enable the accessibility settings. And we have to create a skip link at the very, very top level. Well, not the top level, but right after our chapter, which is a skip link that will basically ignore all of the navigation elements or navigation items or whatever element you put before the skip content. It will skip it and will jump straight to the main content. This is really useful when using tabbing or a screen reader, and we strongly suggest also to mark this up as a page, as a H1 type of heading, because this will be the first objects that the screen reader will identify, right? So when you're tabbing and when you on when the screen reader detects the skip to content link, it will jump right to the page title. In this case, it will be our main content. So we have to add an action, which is in here, which is a go to current page title H1. So we'll see in a few moments what HT or H2 means. But since the beginning, we have to set this up this way. The skip to content link is here, and this is pointed at the page title one directly. Why? Because it will disregard or ignore all of these elements, and so you have to repeat it, to hear every time. Okay, layout is pretty simple. So every time we are developing for accessibility, let's try to come up with a simple layout that just have enough navigation elements, or just the navigation element needed. We don't need extra buttons. We just need probably we need a menu, a navigation, back and next, and a close button, right? So we don't have. That's the interesting thing about accessibility. We can have like simpler navigations system. But we also can, have graphics, and we'll see how to handle graphics when it comes to accessibility. Just some, things we have to remember. Keep the navigation elements at the project level, as I mentioned before. Always on top graphics disabled. This is really important because we don't want the screen reader to get, confused. We have the screen reader experience to be as as straightforward as possible. So always with the graphics, we need to disable that feature. And for instance, we select an image element, these need to be disabled, so it doesn't be read out loud, first when we launch the screen reader. So that's why we're disabling this feature. We can reduce the amount of the corrupted graphic. We don't need enough graphics. If we need graphics with charts, we can have descriptions, or we can add headers to the table charts to make them descriptive, to have extra information on or information, to have the chart descripted to the users. And yeah, also it's best practice to have the naming convention of the objects pretty, basically descriptive and simple enough. We don't want extra information on our project elements. Okay, that being said, let's know the Lectora features. Set reading order to last. Specifically on this course, we haven't grouped the navigation elements, but if we were to group them, we can disable, or we can set the reading order to last. Now we can have navigation read at the very end of your page. We can set that, but enable the set reading order to last on groups. This only works for groups, right? So you can do it with your own, courses. We didn't do it in this specific one because we wanted to have like we wanted to show you all the elements like at the project level before grouping them. So it's your choice. The good thing about I would say that a bonus about this project is that you can take this project or this template, you can make it your own. You can add your own branding to it, and you can use it in your own projects for your own training purposes. And set focus action is a new feature in Lectora 21. This will allow you to add customized focus and elements. So if you're a screen reader, or when you're tabbing and you want to add extra focus on another element, or an element that just the screen reader just read, but you wanted to read it back, or you wanted to let's say refocus, you can add a set focus action to any element on your page, and it will be read again by the screen reader, or it will be focused again. In this case, when you try this on your screen reader, this will be if you click on this focus element will be focused. I just the sample mentioned. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning is that this template, this project, it's also it's enabled to you can it's the function of screen reader is enabled, so you can try it out on your own screen reader, so you have the full experience. Okay, HTML markups, that's something I mentioned before. Why this matters? HTML markups matter because it also helps the screen readers to identify which element should be read first, right? So we mentioned that if we properly align or properly arrange your elements, as let me show you here, as we want it to be read. For instance, let's open this. Let me try it. Yeah, this right. So we have all of these elements here. So order should the order should matters, because content will be read first, and then this Lectora feature title will be read, afterwards. But if we add another heading to this, like a different heading, this is H2, we guarantee that it will be read second. It's a way of helping the screen reader to really keep the reading order, correctly. I might say that it's enough. See, if we place the elements in the right order, we can also have like an extra push if we use the HTML markups on specific titles or subtitles, because we also, you can have single text text of blocks. We can have them, or we can have several. And if you want to, how can I say it? Like, if you don't want some elements to be read, if you want elements to be read, in your own order, you can use HTML markup, and then it will follow the order that you're assigning. But remember, it has two parts: the way you're arranging your elements in your page, but also if you want to prioritize, that was the word, prioritize information using HTML markups. In this case, this is an example of H3 heading, and therefore it will be read last by the screen reader. Sorry, but this was a little bit confusing, but this is pretty well explained in these slides. So just like an extra push, I would say, like, to have the screen reader experience to be better. And what else? Say alternate languages, as I mentioned, we can have a block of text blocks of text in a different language, and the screen reader will read that in the right language, correct, the right spelling, let's put it that way. So we can also have that. And initially hidden content. In the past, when we took over this project, we had information that wasn't updated. And now, with the most recent versions of Lectora and Lectora Online, the content that was hidden, now if you show that this content, or you reveal this content, it will be read by the screen reader, read out loud by the screen reader. So this feature is really important when you're using pop-ups, when you're using our light boxes. You create your own pop-ups, this will be now accessible. So yeah, this one is always, it's a good feature now. Okay, but what about users that have others, put it that way, the other sort of issues with accessibility? We need to come up with a sufficient color contrast for them to be able to read the information. People with low vision, right? We need to help them. We need to make the text as accessible as possible. And one of the guidelines is just to have enough contrast on how to have a very reading experience. This is for people with a little bit low vision. We can help them by having enough color contrast. And here at ELB Learning, we start our projects with 14. With the font should be 14, starting at 14 points. We can also, for titles, we use 18 points, or we bold text. We make them bold just to have enough contrast. And we also work with color. We'll send out a specific contrast ratio web pages where you can have, or you can test your color contrast for you to be to make it easier when picking colors. Okay, accessible pop-up techniques. These we narrowed it down to just three pop-ups. So because in the past pop-ups weren't accessible enough, now they are. But we came up with just three versions of it. One with it's a customized one. Another one is a lightbox. We can use we can have a pop-up using a lightbox, and the last one is just displaying a message. You can open existing page. This is sorry, this is a lightbox. You can close this. I mean, this will be read by your screen reader. We can also have just a regular window, which looks like a lightbox, but it's not. This is just a window. And also you can create your own custom pop-ups, just like making it a hidden object, and it will look something like this. No, so in the past, as I mentioned, this was not accessible, but these three options are available for you if you wanna use pop-ups or pop-up windows. Also, let's try to avoid flashy animations. Let's try to avoid quick movement. Let's try to keep it simple. If we were to use animation in your presentation, just keep it simple. No big flashes. No big. I mean, just like a single on show transition, like a dissolve one. You can use it. You can have it. Okay, hide from screen reader. Sometimes we have extra information that we don't need the screen reader to read, but there's sometimes we have instructions to other developers, so we have some markups or annotations, and in our pages that we don't necessarily need the user or the learners to hear, to listen. We can disable this information by enabling the hide from screen reader. This feature only is available when web accessibility setting is selected. So if this is not selected, this specific option won't be available. This is also one of the features that is enabled after you check the mark on the accessibility settings window. Okay, as I mentioned before, if you have graphical images in your course, because you need to, because you need to, there's two ways to have images in your courses. Images that are going to be completely ignored by the screen reader, and images that will need a little bit more context. So for that, we added two samples in here in case we need to describe images. There is a good practice, as I mentioned earlier, to have a short name for this, or just a simple name for this. In this case, this is a calculator. So when you open this in your Project Explorer, this will show up as a describing images. Just a second, guys. Yeah, this is just a calculator. So when the screen reader is on this image, this will just be read as calculator. But in case we have a more complex image or a more complex set of images, we can also have, what we can do is to have, for example, this object is a little bit more complex. This is just a math operation, but how can we describe this image of this picture in one single line of text? So, because I really need people to know what I'm showing here. So I can use the name that I want, but I'm going to disable the alt tag option of this image, which is I'm going to show you now. The alt tag, it's in here. and I have this, I enable the option to have an LT alt tag. So the screen reader won't read this image. It will skip it, will ignore it. But if in case that I need to provide more context, it will be necessary for me to create a description of the image. So how can I do this? Well, I just have to create a text and put it behind my elements. So for instance, this is what it's describing right now. This is a slateboard with a equation, and it's just hidden behind the image. The empty alt tag, which is, the setting for the screen reader not to read an element, we can also use it for decorative elements. Okay, you can use it in two ways: for decorative elements that are going to be that we want the screen reader to ignore. But in case we have complex images, we can have a description behind. We can also have the transparency set to 0, just to if we don't want to see, the text box here. But yeah, this is an important feature, guys. So remember what alt tags are. Okay, moving on. Controlling audio, we also need to allow the user to control the audio using tabs. So one important aspect of this is never auto start audio. This is really important because we don't want the user to get confused. We want the user to have the best learning experience possible, right? So we can have using just tabs. If we don't have a play bar for the audio or video, we can add our own buttons to it. I mean, you can do it both ways, but it's important if you don't have a play bar or the tool you're using doesn't have play bar options, you have to create your own buttons. Lectora allows you to use your own play bars, also create new play bars, and also customize buttons for your audio needs, our video needs. So regarding video and closed captioning, we know that closed captioning is really important, for people who have some hearing disabilities. So in this case, we need to enable closed captioning, and Lectora, the closed captioning Lectora is accessible. And for this one, we have here a audio that Troy recorded, and if you enable the closed caption, you will have the transcription. But also you can add an extra transcription in case you don't want to synchronize it. If you just want to show the whole transcript, well, you can have a pop-up or a hidden element, a hidden object, and then show the whole speech, right? So we're trying to cover as much as possible. We don't want people not to be able to get all the information they need when taking courses. And same, it also works for a video closed captioning. So I'm not going to show all video, we're just going to show the closed caption part of it. Let me return. And yeah, there's also a tutorial online if you wanted to know how to create closed captioning for Lectora. It's really simple. I mean, you can also load your own transcriptions. If you use these text formats, you can import them into Lectora, and you can create your own closed captioning or edit them out. Okay, tables, charts, and graph accessible. This is also really important because sometimes we can have complex graphics or complex charts. The best practice for accessibility is just to include headers in your for instance in this table. So it will be the order will be read accordingly to the headers, right? So you have and this is why the H tags or HTML tags matter here. We have to enable those for the screen reader to read the table in the right order. But in case for some reason the table or the chart are more complex than this one of the ones you're using, you can also have another method, sorry, for to have your charts being accessible enough, and which is basically having the table as an image and then add a description behind, just as I showed you before. So these are the two ways you can have your table or your chart, your graphics properly set for a screen reading tool. And this is this is the option you need to enable, the include header feature, right? So don't forget about it. Okay, what else? Okay, all Lectora, almost all of the Lectora question types are accessible, but drag and drop matching or hotspots are the ones that are not accessible. So, in case we wanted to have more and put a little bit more of creativity in our courses, let's try to avoid using these three and just go with all of these options, which are I would say plenty enough to have a good experience with accessible projects. True or false, multiple choice, fill in the blank, number entry, short answer, and essay. These are completely IOA compliant. And sorry. Okay, but what's one of the things I want you to know about accessible questions? It's labeling. So in Lectora, when you create a test, it is important to note that the checkboxes or radio boxes or text entry boxes need to have a name and a label tag to it, so that this way the screen reader will read the element, the form element that it's in it, because we have check marks, we have we have checkboxes, and we have radio buttons, and this is the label. It is important that it matches in most of the cases with the name of your element. So we have radio one here where you can have true or false or correct or incorrect, but it's important to have the label be, as close as possible to the name of your element, your question element. Also if you create your own forms outside of a test section in Lectora, you'll make sure to follow the same structure from top to bottom. So the order you want to screen reader to read your elements. For instance, here we have the form name, feed label, text, feed entry field, inches label, and inches entry field. This should be read as you are seeing it right now. And also remember to have the label the right way for forms that are outside the question type, the question sections. You can have test questions, test chapters, your test section, and also you can have extra questions or forms outside of your tests. This is just shows the way how can you use their. This show you the type of questions are that accessible in Lectora. You have the time to go over it. The most important part of this is the way that the feedback is read. And this is at the very end of my quiz. Sorry, I will try to make this as fast as possible. Okay, test results are accessible, right? So you don't have to worry about any of changing any of the settings. It will be already accessible after you have enabled the accessibility settings from the project options panel pane. So yeah, so this is accessible. Remember that. Okay, once we have completed our course, so we have almost finished with our course, we need to make sure that it is accessible enough, that we are not missing important keys or important aspects of it. So how can we make sure that we're doing it everything right, no, or as much as possible to make it right, make it accessible enough with the accessibility checker, which is a tool that Lectora has incorporated. So let me show you how this works. First of all, you need to save your project. It's really important. Always save your project. And then from the ribbon tool, which is in here, we're gonna run the accessibility check or checker. If I don't have it, we don't see anything in red color, it's good. So it will basically, you will see here if you have any accessibility errors in your courses. This is really cool tool. As you can see here in the sample, we have some red text, and it will point toward the element that needs to be fixed in order to compliant, to have to be accessible, to make it accessible enough. So yeah, accessibility checker is a great tool, but don't rely on, I mean, it's a great tool, but we also need to make sure that to make every element or every aspect of our course accessible enough as much as we can. And yeah, we also have a little some publishing we need to take into consideration when you publish your course out. Let's publish this. Yeah, also publish. And you will see that create alt tags for images and buttons is enabled, but it's also grayed out. That means that this project has the accessibility settings enabled, right? And also the lightbox pop-ups is also enabled. And you can have them in the course and they will be accessible. Just, I believe this is just the ones regarding accessible artists too. Yeah, I'm not gonna publish, you already know this part. And some best practice recap that you can see. I mean, you can also download all this list and print it out if you want. This is basically just basically all the information we have given you in the course, and more information that we skip on how to make your courses, available. And yeah. More links if you want to go over the specific guidelines and specific instructions on how to make, no matter if it's a Lectora project, even if you use another tool, you can read all of these links. You can see this is link that you will have more information regarding accessibility. I know this specific talk is Lectora oriented, but these links, on these links you will learn extra information that is important. I know accessibility is huge. I mean, we're not gonna have enough time to go over all accessibility features, but we wanted to focus this webinar specifically on Lectora. And before we move forward, there's something I wanted to show you. I think it was at the beginning. I guess I forgot what I was going to show you guys. But also, we couldn't have done this project without the help of the Lectora accessibility user group. We have a community. These guys know it all when it comes to accessibility. I learned a lot from them. And also a big shout out to Christina O'Malley, who's been really, really, really helpful with this. And she helped me a lot, like trying to get everything, all the information I needed for this project. I was a newcomer when I first started working on this project. I mean, I knew accessibility, I knew features, but after we made this project, I think I don't feel scared of accessibility in Lectora. So this is something I want you to get from this talk, that why accessibility matters and why it is important that you join the accessibility user group. I mean, it's available for all of you guys. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please send them in the chat or just reach out or to Stephanie. We will say, put this in a template available for you. We'll send them out, and you will be able to go over all the missing details. I hope you find this information useful in case that I forgot about to mention information. This information is available here for you. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, Alan, a fantastic job, first off. And then, as far as webinars goes, I feel like we had like it's one of those like Reddit Ask Me Anythings too, like with celebrities in the chat, as we had Christine O'Malley and her group, and Chris Paxton on there too. Yeah, Christine, thank you so much for your help and your meeting with Alan and everything like that. It's been a really, really fantastic project to work on. So anything else for Alan or anybody? We'll leave it open for questions for just a minute or two.
Yeah, we don't have any questions yet, but everybody feel free to pop those in right now if you do have a question. I know I always think of my questions after the webinar is over, but you can always reach out to us in the community. How do we join the Lectora Accessibility Users Group? Let me put that link into the chat again. I know Troy shared this earlier, but it's so easy to lose track of things in the chat. And
also wanted to make, no, go ahead.
I'll put the link in the follow-up email with the recording as well.
So I also wanted to mention that this new version of the project is just the first iteration. So as long as Lectora keeps updating on accessibility, we will update this document, this project for all the users. So this always be available for you, but we'll be constant, keeping updating it as we go, as Lectora goes, update it as well. We're going to refresh it.
Yes, we are always working to improve Lectora and make sure everything is up to date with standards and features.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for me. Again, thank you to the LAUG and Christine O'Malley, and Stephanie. Thank you as always for getting us led here. And Alan, again, fantastic work.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for joining today.